Well, staying with that matter, according to UNESCO, violence in schools is a global phenomenon, with South Africa being no exception. Each year around the world, about 246 million children are affected by school violence. Now, violence in schools occurs in different forms and intersects with violence occurring in a learner's home and their broader community. Some learners experience violence during school hours, in after-school programs, and on their way to and from school. For more on this, let's now welcome Forensic Investigator Dorothy Mmushi. Dorothy, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. So, as we get your reaction on this latest incident, I mean, based on your experience, perhaps let's also get a sense of what are the main drivers behind the increase in violent incidents, especially in South African schools.
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your viewers. Thank you for having me. I think it's more on a somber mood because we've now lost the life of a young person. Violence in schools in South Africa has increased given the exposure to violence that our young people have now been exposed to lately. So based on that, it's now more of an issue of they experience violence based on what they see in the media, based on what they experience at home, based on what they see in society. And we have also seen an increase in the youth being involved in criminal activity. So it's more of a social issue that has now escalated to children being involved in violent acts.
In the case of this incident, the humus drop stabbing, I mean, what kind of investigative steps are crucial here, particularly in determining whether the act was premeditated or even spontaneous? I mean, like we said in our introduction, some learners experience violence during school hours or after school care programs, and also on their way to and from school.
That is correct. I think with this particular incident, the police will have to look into what was the situation before the actual incident took place. As you are saying, it could have been premeditated. You can find that the learner must have maybe been exposed to prior bullying before the actual incident. So I think thorough investigations will then reveal what might have been the motive for this young man's killing.
To what extent then do you think that gang-related influences and even peer group dynamics play a role here in school-based violence? I mean, we also living currently in a very violent time, and as you alluded to earlier on, some of these children could possibly be exposed to seeing this on television, in the news, in movies, etc.
Yes, that is correct. As I said, there's a lot of young people that get involved in gangs now in South Africa, and them being involved in gangs then escalates them to being involved in violent acts. There's also other issues that play a role. For example, I mentioned the issue of a child coming from a home that they are exposed to violence in. In that situation, the child will then also not be afraid to act violently towards their peers. But also what is important to note is schools also need to monitor the behavior of learners when they are at school. And these don't only happen within the school environment. There's other places as well where learners are in groups and where they are interacting. For example, school transports. I know a lot of school transports do not monitor what the children do when they are sitting behind the bus, in the bus, for example. A child can easily be victimized by another child and not even know where to report this. And you find that the driver is too busy driving and concentrating, obviously, on driving, and they're not able to assist when children get in those mini fights. But now the problem is if this is left to escalate, it leads to children ending up acting violently towards one another, or in some instances, as we've recently seen, we see children even committing suicide as a result of continuous bullying from their peers.
And what could those signs look like?
The signs, with children who have been exposed to trauma, and I'd refer to it as trauma, it's children who end up now building anxiety, when your child doesn't even have friends that they relate to at school, that's a child that will even end up being isolated. So what parents need to look out for is how your child behaves at home after coming back from school. And I think so many people out there are busy with their work life as adults. We don't take that time to ask your child, my boy, how was school today? And based on that interaction, you would know whether your child has issues at school. So it's children who are not even able to act as children anymore because they are forever anxious, and they also end up having a feeling of depression as well. So we need to monitor how our young people are when they come back from school. That's the only way you as a parent will be able to pick that up, because sometimes children are even too afraid to report to an adult to say, listen, I'm being bullied by a peer in the school environment.
Yeah.
And the sad thing as well is these children who end up perpetuating violence towards other children, at a later stage, they end up becoming juvenile delinquents. And you find them now ending up being in the criminal justice system because they are so involved in hurting others and being engaged in violent acts.
Very quickly, as we wrap up, I mean, where does policy play a role here? I'm asking this because in terms of investigative insights, how best can they inform policy interventions, especially when you look at just curbing some of the school violence that we are seeing?
For me, I feel it starts in the school. The schools have to have a strict no bullying policy. And also, when you in a school environment instill discipline against learners who bully others or who act violently towards others. And this is not only violence perpetuated towards other learners. There is kids who would even act violently towards teachers. Recently there was a video out on social media where this young boy was actually acting violently towards a teacher. So the school has to have a strict policy. And once there is an indication of anyone not adhering to the policy, there has to be consequence management. Learners must be put through discipline for acting violently towards others. And in doing so, you are building a good culture so that your children know that violence is not tolerated in the school environment. Because once it becomes a criminal act and it goes to the criminal courts, it's something else. And unfortunately, we do find a lot of young people finding themselves being sentenced and being incarcerated in our juvenile centers as a result of bullying and affecting violence towards other young people.
And yet again, we're speaking around another child who has now been killed. I mean, I know that the Department of Education was exploring ways in which, adults could be held accountable for some of this behavior. But Dorothy, thank you so much for your insights. Really do appreciate it. Forensic Investigator Dorothy Mmushi there for us.